Welcome, everybody, to the American Space Museum. I'm Marquette. We're so glad you're with us to stay curious. Staying curious today with this guy, Mark Usciak. Hey, Mark, how you doing?
Doing well, Mark.
Well, a little bittersweet to have you here because we thought we'd be talking about some great photos of the Starlink launch tomorrow night. Not Starlink, Starliner launch, but the Atlas rocket had to stand down. But thank you for coming. Is breaking up, Marty says. Okay.
Is that better?
What's the
Okay, I'm turning my mic on so people can hear.
okay? Let's see
We
what's
have mic
going on
problems.
as we're back in the saddle here. How's that going?
Okay.
Looks like the things are going there good. Well, little minor mic problem because I dropped it a couple times
Yeah,
today
sure.
off there, trying to see the dent on it there. That's not good. So, cleaning up our studio here, doing the chores, and didn't get it done there. But I'm going to look on our YouTube channel here and see if we're on my smart tablet here so we can see everybody that's commenting today. Don't see it up there yet, Marty.
What's up?
All right.
I
You
didn't
got Gary Gerald watching.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm looking to see my home. Go up there. Try to refresh here. But anyway, Mark Usciak is here. And like so many photographers today, uh, going home or thinking about hanging around till Friday when the launch is scheduled again, maybe Friday.
heading home.
Heading home.
Heading home. Yeah, I am not too confident that they're going to get it off this week.
And why is that? What's the scuttlebutt around the
Well,
center today?
we had a press conference last night, and it wasn't too good as far as they didn't really have any answers. There's a lot of testing that they were going to be doing today. Some valve trying to cycle the valve that was giving them problems, and they just didn't want to commit to any kind of a new launch date. They said right now it's no earlier than Friday, but it's not out of the question that it could slip to next week, next Tuesday, Wednesday time frame. So I don't have that time. I had booked in today as an extra scrub day, but I'm going to have to head back. I do have a job.
Yeah, well, like so many other people out there. And you've got the cycle of the International Space Station has to be coming over the coast here for the launch,
Okay.
for the optimum trajectory and fuel and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, we're going to talk about that. Mark talked about covering a launch is always like a family reunion. You see a mixture of old friends and new people that you met on Facebook. Like we've got Rob Mecklenburg in here from the Netherlands. Hey, Rob.
Hello.
Rob's sitting in our studio here. He loves coming to the launches, and we're going to talk about that kind of bittersweet that you got to spend some time here. You saw the walkout, but you didn't see anything else. I see that hello to Gary Gerald up there and his wife Donnie. You guys celebrated a wedding anniversary April 30th. We missed that, but not too late to say happy marriage to y'all up there in Collins, Georgia. Doug Forrest says hello from Los Angeles area. Steve Jokums is up there at the Lake County Spaceport, and he had as good of launches. Your launch is the same as here on the Space Coast there, Steve Jokums. Still grounded down here. Of course, Steve's got a wonderful modeling decal business that we've talked about on there. And Doug Forrest is commenting about the background here. That's one of your masterpieces.
That was a shot that I did in Titusville for the Artemis 1 launch when I came down for that in November. When was that? 22?
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. Yep. It was scrubbed in August and then got it off in November in the middle of the night.
Yep. I was taken maybe less than a mile here from the museum, right along the river in Titusville.
Yeah, gorgeous shot there. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, you just get that here along the river with the telephoto lens, the sun coming up there. You could watch it actually creep further south this way. Actually, it was headed towards the rocket every day. It would get a little bit closer there, wonderful photograph to try to follow. Your brother says hello, Tommy Usciak. Nice to see my brother on Stay Curious again. And Tom Celentano. Yeah, I did see the Falcon 9 launch yesterday. I couldn't believe it that they were going to launch over a crewed rocket, because before they said, no, 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 we're not going to. If that would blow up on the pad, it was on pad 40, the SpaceX Falcon 9 launch, and 41 was less than 2 miles away, right?
Mhm.
Where the United Launch Alliance Atlas was. So that's the confidence that NASA has in that Falcon 9 rocket that has been launched flawlessly over 300 times, 303 landings now on a barge or over here in Zone 1. 303 was clicked off. And I will give NASA credit for 133 space shuttle landings, okay, bringing it back. But everyone needs to get that technology of bringing back that first stage. It saves them over $50 million.
It's a game changer.
A game changer for sure. And we'll see your shot here. And Robert Law is up in Dundee, Scotland. Hello, Robert. Hope you're enjoying a nice cocktail. And thank you, Tom Celentano. I think you participated in our successful auction over the weekend. We want to thank everybody for participating in the auction and buying what you did, with a lot of photographs, over 200 photographs. And I watched it off and on. Say hello to Marty Winkle on our board here. Marty, we watched it here Saturday a little bit. I was pleased with some of the prices going for things. They were solid. Things weren't being given away at $25, $50. Some of these rare NASA photographs of the Apollo moon landing, astronauts on the moon, Voyager spacecraft, lunar orbiter, all on official NASA paper, went for big bucks, and we're real glad about that. Well, there's that pretty picture of you right there that we like out there at Artemis with your credential there. And tomorrow we've got a special guest, Caroline Shoemaker. She's the CEO and president of the Astronaut Scholarship Foundation that are celebrating their 40th anniversary this year, founded by the Mercury astronauts. And they've given away millions of dollars in scholarships to hundreds of deserving students out there. Caroline's going to talk all about that in the upcoming Astronaut Hall of Fame induction at the end of the month in June 1st here on the Space Coast. And you've got the privilege to be one of the photographers there.
I am. I will be doing some work with them over that 3-day period, covering the banquets and some of the meetings and breakfasts and other gatherings that they have. Looking forward to it. That's a really good event and
a good gig.
It's a nice gig.
And you're excellent at that.
Thank you.
I used to be an event photographer and get all those pictures of people talking, and you don't want to get them with their face full of food or after 11 o'clock when they've had too many adult beverages, but you do a great job at that. And I'm glad that Caroline's team asked you to do that. Friday, we're going to have Future Friday with our hometown space company, Via Space. We've got a lady engineer whose name I didn't get. They sent me all the data about that yet, so we'll have her up there. And still wanted to talk about that, Marty, that Via Space up there, their V for the vector there, and we're glad that they're on once a month now to bring us an engineer, getting close to launching their first payload. Of course, they use plastic as their fuel, and 3D print plastic granules. It's a recyclable rocket, and they can do a 5,000 payload with a bunch of recycled pop bottles. So we're going to look forward to that. But you're going to want to watch Caroline Shoemaker tomorrow. We're looking forward to her talking about her awesome team at the Scholarship Foundation. And we're going to, there she is. There's Caroline there, picture I took off of her. She went to college at Ohio Northern University in the same cornfields where I grew up in Hancock County, Ohio. So we're going to have some fun with Caroline tomorrow. There you are, little thing I put together is some of your rocket launches when you were young, and you spent 5 decades photographing rockets. How about
Wow.
that? That's
Jeez.
50 years. Yeah. Flies by fast, doesn't it?
Sure does. I'll
We
have to
got
take-
some birthdays that are deserving of me putting on my birthday hat, Marty. I hadn't done that in a while, but let's rip off a couple birthdays here on May 7th, and we missed a few on May 6th. Yes, sirree, Mr. Jay Honeycutt has a birthday today, born in Jena, Louisiana. Jay has become a great supporter of our museum. He's done some wonderful programs with us on um, the Sims. He was a simulator guy at Johnson Space Center, and though he was the Kennedy Space Center director for 2 years, and there he is with astronaut Nicole Stott, his good friend. Nicole's husband Chris was one of his bubbas when he was the Kennedy Space Center director.
Okay.
And but that 2 years was just icing on the cake for Jay. He really was involved with the Sims at the Kennedy Space Center. There he is, the room that's got the glass windows in Johnson's space control there in Houston. That's where he would be, and he trained the flight controllers in about putting the monkey wrench, so to speak, into the space flights, creating anomalies that they had to overcome. And then Jay, after the Challenger, with several people, including astronaut Mike McCulley, was involved in that. Jim Adamson, another astronaut. They helped chart the future of the space shuttle era as the manager of the space program. Jay was at the time. Bob Seek, another important person in that restructuring after 25 launches, what was to be a very successful program. So happy birthday, Jay. We'll be seeing him on a Stay Curious episode real soon. And this is Marie Fullerton. Happy birthday to you, the grand dame of the astronaut shuttle women for sure, and a friend of yours.
Good friend. Hey, Marie, if you're watching this, we'll see you at the end of the month. She's coming for ASF.
Yeah, that's where I met her. There she is with your brother Tommy and you and
Yep.
and Gordo.
That's
Fredo.
Hayes.
I mean
Yeah.
Fred Hayes there. Not her husband's Gordo, Gordon Fullerton.
Mhm.
And there they are. Was that at Space
That
Fest?
was a space fest.
All
Yep.
right, and we're
Yep,
hoping
I was
Shuttle
out.
Fest becomes the destination event like Space Fest did out there in Tucson, and Kim Poor's wife Sally did a great event for a decade or so out there. But yes, Marie, very active. There's her husband Gordon, died about 10 years ago, I believe, of cancer
Okay.
on there, and she just has. She's a woman that she talks about her husband. You just see her eyes just glow with love and affection.
I
for
wish
that
I
man.
could have got a chance to meet him.
Yeah.
That's,
Yeah, really, really good. So happy birthday to Marie Fullerton today, and we got more. Oh yeah, well there's
Yep.
Marie with can't leave Chris Callie out because Chris actually introduced me to Marie. There we got Bobby Seek in the background there. That was at probably Scholarship Foundation event
yeah, I think that's over at the hotel.
Yeah.
I think that might have been at the hotel where at the Hilton.
last year. So yes, we've got more birthdays. And yesterday, May 6th, was a good day to be an astronaut. 3 birthdays. This is Don Thomas with Anita Truex, our office manager, and Connie Fullerton, our ace volunteer there. 69 years old, Don turned yesterday, born in Cleveland, Ohio, one of 25 Buckeye astronauts, 4 space flights, including the all-Ohio mission of STS-70. 4 of the 5 astronauts were born in Ohio, and they made the 5th one a naturalized Buckeye on there. Don's a great guy. You've been around him a few times, I imagine. He's still young. He still wants to give, and he's out there talking. This was at an event for the Japanese Florida group, and we're going to celebrate a Japanese astronaut. There is your photograph, Mark, of Dave Leesma, born May 6, 1849 in Muskegon, Michigan. He had 3 space flights in the early days. He was one of the early astronauts of the early 80s. 41G, 28, and 45 was his mission there, and inducted into the Astronaut Hall of Fame. in 22, I believe it
Yeah,
was in
yep,
there.
that was at the
There.
banquet.
And then Chukai Mukai, the Japanese first woman to space, she turned 72 years old. Dave Leisman, by the way, is 75 there. So looking great for his age. And there's 72-year-old Chiku Mukai, born in Gunma, Japan. She was a physician, 2 space flights, 23 days, STS-65 and STS-95. And the Japanese are crazy about this lady for sure. And we are privileged that Japan, Florida comes here with a group of Japanese students, about 30 of them, 3 or 4 times a year. That's where we got the picture of Don Thomas there. So some great birthdays to remember. Hats off to all of you astronauts and friends of our museum, including Jay Honeycutt and Marie Fullerton. There's that beautiful picture I chose for a background there. You can't Photoshop in the clouds like that. That's just a beautiful
You can almost
opportunity
feel
to
the
get all
warmth.
that. Yeah, you feel the warmth there on there. So, on this May 7th, 2024, 10 humans orbiting the Earth. Thought we'd be able to add 2 more people to this chart today, but not to be. But all 3 superpowers. China has 3 tachionauts on their Tiangong space station shown up there on the left. It's just like a couple mobile homes put together at this point. I don't think it's going to get any bigger than that. And then, of course, on our International Space Station, 3 Russians and 4 Americans orbiting the Earth. Everybody in perfect harmony. They were cleaning up there for Suni and Butch to hopefully be docking with them tomorrow morning, but we're going to have to wait on that. But 10 humans orbiting the Earth. In the history of all civilization, we've had 617 humans have orbited the Earth, 77 of them women there. A stat that we like on Stay Curious, keeping you up with. Now, Tiangong's got these new crew that just came up there, and we're going to see probably later this summer, we're going to see the Tiangong space station is going to have near its orbit a Russian space station. All right. And got a note here of what we're going to talk about, the CFT 100, which is the Starliner spacecraft there. What does CFT stand for? Well, we'll find out there in a minute. Let's see, Carlton's on here. Great to see you guys. He's outside the door here, especially Pennsylvania Mark, and of course Mark and Marty. Professor Usciak, are you going to be able to stay to see the Starliner? I know you've waited a long time, but you're not. And hello, Stay Curious from Bill Whiting. And Bill's back on the Space Coast. Glad to have your feet in the sand, I'll bet. So, Tiangong Space Station is going to be joined in its orbit, but not connected to the space telescope.
Oh,
They're supposed to launch.
okay.
That's only about 6 feet in diameter, not 9 like Hubble, or 28 like the Webb, but they're claiming it will be pretty powerful, and they're going to keep it in an orbit near Tiangong so it can be serviced by astronauts or their tachionauts. So I fully look for that to happen this summer. Well, you got a great shot of this was Thursday's launch, I guess. Out there, where were you? What's going on here?
Well, this was yesterday. Yeah, this was we were at Rusty's. Carlton, John, and I were looking. We grabbed lunch. Supposed to go around 12:30, and they postponed it till 2:15 in the afternoon. So we were looking for a place close to the river. I wanted to get that booster. That's a Falcon 9 booster that's in port, and they're getting ready to service it. They take the legs off and then take it back to the different hangars there at the SpaceX facilities. And I wanted to try and get the 2, one going up and one sitting there in the same shot. And weather was good. Got
You
a couple
did.
good
It looks
shots.
great.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So that was
The
just
one that was
it.
launched Thursday, come back.
Was-
That's what I meant. And
Yep.
We had who do we have on here? trying to think.
Well, the one going up has just got some Starlink satellites on it. I'm not sure what was on I don't know what the payload was for the one sitting there. Maybe one of our friends out in the audience could say, but
I think that's from Thursdays. The payload was also the Starlink, or maybe that
Okay.
was the other communication satellites up there. John Borelli got a similar shot. Hi, John. We had him on the show last Monday. John got a shot of a Falcon 9 going right beside another booster,
ooh,
really up close on there. It's amazing just how dirty they get.
well,
I mean,
that thing's probably flown a dozen times already, if not more.
and they just leave they don't wash them off apparently very much. Of course, that kerosene, RP kerosene fuel, is probably pretty nasty. We got Lisa Marie Lehigh. Hello from Tampa. Always great to hear and see Mark's photos. Lisa Marie.
No, thank you.
All right. Great. So let's see, what else have I got wrapped up here? Yeah, you went out there and got kind of a very interesting picture. This is sort of a non-glamorous photograph of the Atlas rocket in its N-22 configuration, the Atlas V, with the white rocket is the Centaur that they had problems with last night.
Yep.
The valve, and then of course the Boeing Starliner's on top of it. It's got that skirt. I've not done a lot of research on this vehicle. Obviously, there's not an escape tower, so it has something similar to Draco thrusters
correct.
that the SpaceX Crew Dragon has to get them off of there. And then the strong back is the big tall structure that lifted it up vertically. And behind there's the white room up there. It looked like they had a pretty big white room set up there.
Yep, that's relatively new. These used to just take satellites up, but this thing actually rolls out to the pad this way. That doesn't go out, and it's not lifted like the SpaceX ones.
Oh.
It goes out vertically from the building out to the launch pad, which they took us out to see 2 days ago.
There you see the exhaust tunnel for the flame trench there to blow out of there. Now that's where you set up a remote.
I didn't set one up there. I had mine set up a little bit to the left of there, up on a slight hill. And after all that was done, I was walking back to the bus to get on, and that was right there by I was getting ready to get on the bus, and I just turned around and snapped that one shot. So I don't know if you can see on the bottom of that if there's any cameras down there. There was that is.
I do see a couple camera
there's some tripods
spread
there.
out
Yeah, that is a popular site for
Great,
cameras.
Marty. Thank you.
But they definitely get wet, and sometimes they
Destroyed.
stick. Well, not destroyed. Sometimes they'll get definitely some stuff on the lenses from the solid rocket motors. Put a lot of punch out, and so I was back further, and so my cameras were pretty much safe from any of that kind of residue after the launch. But there was quite a number of cameras out there. We had a nice crowd this time. The folks at NASA and ULA took great care of us, and it was a pretty good setup. But just sorry we had to pull them all down today.
Well, you said that it's a lot like being a mixture of old friends, like a reunion, people you've met on Facebook and by email that you meet for the first time face to face. So there's a good old list of people there at the press site there. Who's up there left to right? Take us around.
You know what?
clockwise.
I know that's it's Peter King. You must have pulled these off of Peter's site, because some of these guys I don't know.
Yeah.
Actually.
Well, it was referred to your Bill's. You got Julian Leak there with
Of
Peter.
course, Julian, I know.
Okay,
Yep.
and that's Emily Speck Merchant.
Okay.
Apparently, Eric Burris is in the center there behind behind
Peter.
Peter
Yep.
King.
Yep.
And Eric is a Channel 2 newscaster
Okay.
on there. And then you got you're down there at the bottom with
Yep.
CB.
Carl.
Yeah, let
Yep.
me make
Yeah,
that smaller so we can see Carlton Bailey there.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah. smiling face there. So, and the other guy would be Bill Salvin
Okay.
on the left there.
A lot of the faces look familiar, but since I'm not here that many times as often as I'd like to be, I recognize the faces, but sometimes can't place the names.
Well, you talk about being a photographer, and we love to show off these images here of you setting up your remotes. You're in the middle at the bottom there. Who's these other guys?
Well, the guy, we got to give a good shout out to Alan Waters, who took these photographs after he had set his cameras up. Again, walking back from the location where he was to go back to the bus, he was walking past some of the areas where we were, and he just turned around and gave a shout out. The gentleman up top is Craig Bailey. He's a local photographer here for Florida Today. And then underneath him in the blue shirt, of course, that's me. And I think that's to my right is John Studwell, another photographer here from Florida. And I can't
and
see
the bottom over there.
Yeah, who was that one in the bottom?
You're in
I'm
the
in
way.
the way.
Yeah.
You tell me who it is. Can you see?
No, I don't there. But you look at the outfits they have.
Looks like Scott Schilke.
Scott-
That's Scott Schilke.
Everyone has thousands of dollars worth of equipment on a tripod that's weighted down with sandbags or something or barbells.
Stakes.
And stakes,
Yep.
stake them down. And then you've got your little boxes that you set stuff in to take pictures with. And
the sound triggers.
and your sound triggers
Yep.
on there. So, and then that's where you just came back from, was harvesting all that stuff.
Yep, we went out there about 2:00, pulled all the stuff that took us an hour to set up yesterday, and
10
Here we
minutes
are.
to break it down.
pretty much, yeah.
And not know when you can do it again.
Nope.
They'll let you know, of course, but you can't stick around, and that's kind of sad that a rocket engine held up the Boeing's maiden flight. Let's look at some of the pictures you took here, or the walkout there.
Yep, that was last night. What time was that, Rob? Do you remember?
7:50.
7:50 in the evening. Butch and Sonny came strolling down the walkway there out of the building where they got dressed, and their families and friends were in a little area right in front of us, photographers. So we were all lined up. I don't think I sent you a shot of the lineup of how we were all stretched out.
No,
there.
I didn't see that.
You can see those little white posts and the yellow rope area is where the family and friends were allowed to wave to them and greet them and send them off kindly, nicely, and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then us photographers were lined up behind them. So
now there's Butch. They kind of call this. This is the Boeing spacesuit that they designed by David Clark, I assume.
Okay, I don't know.
I don't know, but SpaceX designed their own, and they call it a sexy looking thing.
Okay.
I'm not sure what you'd call this spacesuit on Butch there. That just sort of
Big
looks
blue.
like
We'll just call
the
it
big blue overalls there.
Yep.
And but it gets the job done. And of course, most of this is in case they would have an abort, and they would have to be. There's some some things on their pockets that would like lights and beacons and stuff like that in case they get way out there. But both of these astronauts have waited over a decade to fly again. Both very experienced, seasoned astronauts in the shuttle era. Sunny has 350 days in space. Her last expedition was 12 years ago. She actually did the Boston Marathon on the treadmill up there. And I think I read where Katie Coleman and her sister ran it at
at the
Boston.
same time.
At the same
Okay.
time. No, not Katie. Maybe it was Karen Nyberg.
Okay.
But one of the female astronauts ran it with her sister during the Boston Marathon while she was orbiting the Earth on the space station. Who we have there?
Well, we've got the ULA boss, Tori Bruno, with the tie, and he's talking to Chris Ferguson, who was commander of the last shuttle mission and is also chief astronaut for the Boeing flight crew team. And that was at the crew walkout last night.
Ferguson was inducted in the Hall of Fame. I think you photographed that
Yes.
too
Yes.
with Sandy Magnus,
Mhm.
his crewmate on STS-135. He was the original commander of
this
the
mission.
original Boeing, and actually Sonny Williams was going to be the commander of the second crewed flight. And for personal reasons, he said family. Chris Ferguson stepped down, and but he's over the astronauts, the NASA astronaut commercial program there at Boeing. So, Tory Bruno there's has got a lot of work cut out for him here to get this rocket. Of course, they have a flawless record with the Saturn, the Atlas V record. This is going to be its 100th flight,
Okay.
and the Centaur is the second stage, and their valves just weren't working right on the way they should have. So there's Ferguson with Mr. Bill Nelson, our NASA administrator.
Yep. Same place. I was taken maybe a minute or two after the last picture, so they were
Did
all.
you see Pambo there?
I
the
did not
second
see.
command?
I didn't see
Pam
Pam
Melroy?
Melroy. No. Did you see? You haven't
No,
seen
no.
No, she wasn't there. She wasn't there.
So all the dignitaries were there. A lot of astronauts in town to see Sonny off. Very popular astronaut. Very test pilots. And boy, did Kay Hire astronaut straighten me out last week when I was privileged to have lunch with her at a NASA group. And I said, did they waste 10 years of their lives waiting for this? And she goes, hell no, they're test pilots. This is what they want to do. They've been working their butts off for at least 7 years in this Boeing program to shake this down. So she didn't think that they at all minded being on the ground, but Sonny could have had an easy expedition or two more on there, and Butch, a very experienced astronaut on there, but this is what they do as test pilots. So very happy to be doing that. And there they are, the big hurrah there in there. Looks like Butch got him a good Butch haircut there, new there. So well, we're going to change the pace here a little bit from space. And I know Daniel DeYoung, he's wishing us a good afternoon. Daniel, good to see you. We got another Dutchman in here. All right, Rob Mecklenburg. I was telling him about you, and Daniel was saying the same thing, that your winter wasn't much of a winter in the Netherlands. You had too much rain, and
Too much rain.
you didn't see a lot of snow or anything, and
a little bit.
and you're definitely believers of the climate change affecting the Netherlands there, and all of the islands up there around Britain and the western shore of Europe up
right.
there. So,
right.
well, we're going to look at, of course, photographers are photographers. Just show them something that is interesting to take and challenging in many ways with their equipment and so forth. And you enjoy just going out and photographing things. Sometimes you don't have a paying customer for it, but you know it's an event that you don't want to pass up. And one of them that you photograph up in Pennsylvania are a lot of birds.
Well, I'm fortunate to live at a right place. It's about a half an hour drive, 35 minutes from my home.
In Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
It's not in Lancaster.
Yeah,
It's
but you
north
live
of
in
Lancaster, and it's a wildlife, Pennsylvania State Wildlife Preserve. So it's called Middle Creek, and it's in the migratory path of tens of thousands of Canadian snow geese every winter.
Canadian snow geese.
And
We're going to see a few of them.
they
here.
come flying in usually sometime mid-February to early mid-March, and we've had them as low. This year wasn't a big migrating year. I think the maximum it got up to was about 50,000 birds. There's been years, you can go back on Pennsylvania's website in their game. I can't think of the actual website, but they do like a count. And 10, 12 years ago, they had close to 180,000.
180,000 birds. Wow.
At the peak at one time. Yeah, and that was
Sounds noisy to me.
well. It's a good noise. It's a noise that you'll never forget when you have 100,000 birds in the air at one time. It's really, if you go back to that last picture, you can see how it blocks the sky and the sun out. Yeah, I mean it's really good. It's a great a known photography event for people that are into wildlife.
And look at the people that are into
Yeah,
it.
well, yeah, those are the locals mixed in with, and that's just a small portion.
You just weren't a couple shutterbugs around there doing the
well,
thing.
it's very popular with the local people that live in the area, and I'm saying within a 30-40 mile radius, but also it pulls photographers from I've seen license plates New York, Ohio, New Jersey, Maryland, Delaware. It's a very, very well known photography event for people that are into wildlife.
So they're all just waking up, and then
the thing that happens is it's such a large area. It's thousands of acres of ground, and they have feeding fields for the geese that come in, but it's also a bald eagle sanctuary. So snow geese don't like bald eagles because when they see them, that spooks them because they think they're going to get eaten. But 30,000 to one ball. I've never seen one attack, but I've seen them fly through, and whenever a bald eagle is anywhere near there and it's just traversing the area, you'll have a mass ascension where you'll have 50,000 birds in the air at one time. And that's a sight to see. And the best time for that on that lake where that photograph was taken is half an hour before sunrise till about an hour and a half after sunrise. So you've got about a 2-hour sweet spot time when you're shooting, and then you go back at the end of the day an hour before sunset to right after sunset. So it's about an hour again. So
the golden hour.
And that's the time that draws the most photographers, and it's neat. I mean, I've made some good friends up there over the years, and you got to get there early in the morning to get the good shots, and that's what separates a lot of the people.
Well, here's a great photograph that you actually, I guess, got a new friend over this by this. Tell us about this
it's
story
funny.
around this photo.
Well, this kind of has a local flavor here to Florida right now. 4 years ago, I was flying from Baltimore Airport to Houston, Texas. And the reason was Jack Lausma's birthday is the 29th of February. And his daughter had contacted me and said, hey, we'd like to have you come down and shoot Dad's 21st birthday party.
Yeah, he was
I'm saying
84.
he was 80, yeah. So I said, sure. So she got me a ticket. I stayed at her house. I drive to the airport. I think it was around the 26th of February. And I'm sitting there waiting to get on my Southwest plane, and I look over, and who do I see? None other than Boeing astronaut Sonny Williams. And I'm looking, and I said, I'm not going to go over and bother her. I mean, I don't do that. It's not me. So the plane was only about half full, and they said, Southwest, you can sit anywhere you want. So she was in the same boarding group as me. So she got on the plane first, about 2 or 3 minutes ahead of me. So I'm walking down the aisle, and she's sitting on the window seat, and I figured, why not? So I sat on the aisle seat. And of course, since the plane wasn't full, nobody's sitting in the middle seat. So we're getting, people are still coming on board. We're getting strapped in, and I leaned over to her, and I said, hi, Sonny. I said, first thing, you don't know who I am. I said, we've never met officially, but I photographed some of your shuttle missions in the past. Explained to her what I was going to Texas for. She was up in Annapolis, Maryland, doing a speaking engagement at the U.S. Naval Academy in Annapolis, where she graduated from. So we sat beside each other, or not totally beside each other, but there was a seat in between. And I explained to her what I was going down to shoot, Jack's party. And right before, literally 4 or 5 days before I got on board of the plane, I was up at Middle Creek shooting the snow geese. So I was showing her pictures of some of my space pictures on my phone, and I swiped back one, and it was that bird picture and a couple other ones. And unbeknownst to me, she's a big wildlife fan, and she just said, "Wow, that's a great shot. Could you send it to me?" So I handed her my phone, and she punched in her number, and next thing I know is she's got a bunch of my pictures, and that was great. And I loved it. I hadn't spoken to her or contacted her in the previous 4 years. So her mission came up, and I'll backtrack a little bit. When I was sitting there beside her on the plane, I told her she was originally supposed to fly later that year at the end of 2020. That was before COVID. Literally, that trip happened 3 weeks later. The country was starting to shut down because of COVID. So, of course, all the missions got delayed and schedules slipped out with one thing or another. So when I was sitting there talking to her, I said, "I'll be down to shoot your mission at the end of the year." Well, unbeknownst to me, now it's 4 years later. So I contacted her about 10 days ago and said, "Not sure if you remember me or not, but I promised you I would just shoot your launch whenever it was." And she contacted me back. She says, "Oh, you're the snow geese guy," because we were talking about the snow geese. So she's a big snow geese lover. So I said, "Yep, that's me." And so I've been texting her some photographs of rollout, and now with the crew walkout, I sent her back, and she was very gracious and kind, and complimented me and was thanking me on the pictures that I sent. So I just told her today, or I messaged her today, that when her mission's over, if she would give me a mailing address, I could put all the shots that I have on a flash drive, and I'd send them to Houston for her. So that's
Sweet.
That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
That sounds really good. Sonny Williams here
Yep.
on the CST 100. What does CST stand for? Nobody's biting on that on my smart tablet here.
Well,
CST, it's Crew Space Transportation.
okay.
I thought it was commercial space transportation, but crew space and it's called CFT
CST 100. Okay.
100, the crew flight test of it there. So that's what those acronyms stand for. In fact, speaking of acronyms, I talked to Terry White,
Yep.
our garage mechanic for the shuttle there.
Okay.
And he's gonna be on the show next Wednesday, the 15th, I believe that is.
Mhm.
And we're gonna talk about NASA acronyms, Marty. That's why that acronym book was laying there when you came in today on the thing there. So think of a couple good acronyms there, Marty. What's interesting about the acronyms is Kennedy Space Center and Johnson Space Center sometimes pronounce the same acronym differently. All right.
I got one for you.
What's that?
PLSS.
Personal Life Support System. PLSS.
How do they pronounce that?
Please.
Pliss.
Pliss.
Pliss. Yep.
Pliss. They say PLSS and Kennedy and Pliss and Johnson Space Center.
There you
maybe,
go.
But Marty's nodding there. So we're going to talk about our monthly chat with Terry White, and he's going to be going to Montana, seeing his son. His son's being deployed to where is his son being deployed? Over in Europe.
Okay.
Over there, and I'm going. Not a good time to be deployed to Europe, but he's going to be over there in Hungary or something over there. So, Travis is his son Travis there. So, we'll look forward to Terry White next week on Stay Curious. Well, let's get a little more of your chops here with your nature world. There's also you're always sending me nice nature pictures. I've seen those eagles But this is quite an unusual situation.
Unfortunately, this habitat is no longer in existence. This was a nice little owl nest that had been there for years up in the Ephrata area, close to my house. And they've had owl babies born and raised in that tree for like 10 years.
Oh, really?
And I'm not sure if the tree got sick or if it got hit by lightning or something, but that little owl nest is no longer there. And you can see some of the photographers that were always there. There was right around the hatching and everybody there. The money shot you want to get is when the baby gets big enough to fledge and actually make its first flight out of the tree is what everybody goes for.
Well, there's a sunrise. No, I'm kidding.
That's okay.
I thought that looked
Well,
like
that's-
part of the tree in the
Well,
background.
the camouflage is great. That's the baby underneath
Yeah.
with the mom, because the babies get big. I mean, they grow up in there in about like 8 weeks, and they fill up that tree. So it pushes the parents out, and there was a bunch of branches before. Usually there was two little guys in there. I'll say owlets, and so you get two babies and try and squeeze an adult in those trees, and it doesn't work. So they stay out and let the babies grow up, and then they make their first flight when they're good and ready. Usually about 8 weeks, I guess, after they're born.
There's a squirrel looking in
That's
there.
must have been one of Carlton's friends that was imported,
Yeah.
or a cousin. But yeah, I mean, it was in an area. I mean, there were squirrels, rabbits, which is a good food supply for the parents to feast on, to bring home for the babies to eat. And
Absolutely.
that was a few years ago too. So yeah, this was always a big, sort of like Middle Creek. It was known to the locals up there, and it also got out into the wildlife photography groups. So there would be not as much as Middle Creek, because the space there was very limited. You only had
With
like
the
a
snow
sweet,
geese. Yeah, you got
sweet spot of maybe you could only fit maximum like 10, 12 photographers there at any one time. So
well, you see these great photos, and like you see, you don't see the backstory of the people around you. You go out to be a photographer at Yellowstone National Park, for example. It's a busload of a lot of photographers, men and women, with a lot of telephoto lenses and high-end equipment on there. And having been in photography clubs and stuff all my life, it's it's an interesting group of people. They respect each other a lot. There are some people there that are being paid to be there to do pictures, but these are sort of the local little niches that the photography clubs find and then
Yep.
enjoy there on there. So you coming down here, you get your away from some of the wildlife and into different other wildlife areas.
well, this
here.
was just I think this morning or yesterday morning, over
some
by the Hyatt
Spoonbill Roseates.
Place.
Roseates there.
That's over right in Titusville, close to Route 1.
Mm-hmm.
A little pond back behind the Hyatt Place, and saw it out the window, dropped the window, and snapped a quick
Never
shot.
know what you're going to see around there.
Yep.
I know over the weekend I also got to enjoy it, but you saw the Blue Angels in Vero Beach.
That was a
So you've
great
seen
air
a couple
show.
launches. You've seen the fabulous air show, the Blue Angels,
But a-
Navy and Marines best there.
Yep, big shout out to Connie McDaniel here at the museum for allowing John and Carlton and I to be treated like royalty at the Blue Angels hospitality tent.
Her
And
nephew was not a aviator. He was part of the ground crew and coordinated all that. And I didn't take many pictures. I enjoyed watching it through a good pair of binoculars. But when I saw that in my binoculars, I said, "Oh, I'm sure you guys captured that, missed off of the, because that was just a brief half a second maybe that you got to shoot that."
Yep.
And I see that's number 6, one of the free guys, the free range guys. There's 6 and 5 again. That is a difficult shot, folks. This is like a tenth of a second Really?
hundredth of a second.
Maybe even a hundredth of a second that they are even
Yeah.
that close to each other, passing each other. That was a great grab there. And then of course the crew has the a woman pilot on there, Amanda, on there, and so that was a lot of fun to watch. What skill and what we saw, if you've seen these air shows, particularly the Blue Angels, all these maneuvers are just standard maneuvers they have to do to prove their mettle out there. And I heard something like they have to do this 75 times before they do it in front of the public,
Wow.
rehearsing this. So, well, there was a great day, the rollout of Artemis, and looks like it's going to be well over a year before we see this again, unfortunately.
I'll be back.
As the cadence isn't too quick here on the Artemis program, but there it is all the way out the pad. Beautiful shot. Was that from the wildlife?
Yes.
With a telephoto
Yeah,
lens out there to
heading
Merritt
up.
Island Wildlife Center.
Yep, I was heading out toward Playa Linda Beach.
Yep, beautiful place to catch pad 39B. And the roar of the engines, the liftoff at, what ungodly middle of the night hour was that? 2 in the morning?
Do you remember,
Something like
Rob? It was late. I think it might have been around 2.
Yeah.
Midnight, yeah. Yeah.
But hope to see it soon again. Well,
Yep.
you've covered a lot of rocket launches. There you are out at, where are you there?
Well, that's Wallops Island in Virginia, only about 200 miles from where I live, which makes it a nice little, a nice jaunt. But that's one of NASA's smaller rockets, the Antares, on the launch pad. That was for one of the earlier flights, way back in the beginning of the program. I'm thinking maybe back in 2012, 2014. So yeah, those rockets no longer exist because of the conflict going on over with Russia and Ukraine. The factory that made those rockets was destroyed, and now there's another company, a U.S. company, that's basically making an American-made version of that rocket. I think it's Firefly.
Right.
Is making.
And they're
I
going to
guess
launch
they're gonna-
some missions there.
They'll launch, yeah, that pad in Wallops was specifically built for that Antares rocket. So they're using as much of the infrastructure there as they can, maybe making some minor changes, but they have an assembly building there, the launch pad, the water tower, all the infrastructure to support the mission of that smaller class rocket.
Which was cargo ships. It was an
Yes.
important Cygnus cargo ship. Over 20 of them launched from there, I believe. So we hope to see very important base to space there at Wallops Island up there. And you've covered many things there. Well, I pulled off a couple personal fun pictures here.
Hey.
There's Ellie Sheriff.
Yep. That was down in San Antonio. She was down there with her boyfriend back in October. She was covering it for her space channel, Ellie in Space. I was there shooting for myself and also for National Space Society if they needed any shots. That was kind of a multi-purpose trip. There was an air show in Houston, a press conference in Houston, the eclipse, and a trip to Starbase that I did all in a 4-day span in October of last year.
Ellie does a good job talking about space and very popular video podcast on YouTube.
Yep.
And thanks to you guys, we had her on our video podcast.
Yep, she's a friend
a
of the
couple
museum.
years ago, and she's she knows her stuff. She's a very intelligent young lady. Worked in the news business at a couple TV stations, and now she's out on her own promoting mostly the Boca Chica situation there.
Yep, she moved down to Austin, I guess last year, and to be close to the SpaceX action, and that's good. She's doing
all kinds of action in Austin, not
Okay.
just space action, space
Okay.
stuff, all kinds of good stuff going on there. And here's one of my favorite pictures of you and me with the Jack Lausma, the man, talking to him after we took him to dinner and brought him back to the hotel. Thank you, Carlton Bailey, for taking that photo. I just like that look of us there with him.
Composition, yeah.
We love that man, don't we?
We do.
He's really a wonderful human being, a great astronaut. He loves talking about his Skylab 2 mission, the second crewed flight, with Al Bean as his commander, and he was up there with Owen Garriott, I believe.
Yep.
Did a spacewalk. Just really a national treasure for
He
sure.
is. He's a great man.
Up there. And so I'm ending our little talk with you a little bit about your photography. As you had an opportunity, I think, as a young man, that you probably never would have this opportunity again to photograph. This is STS-3, the third shuttle launch. Okay. Still 2 astronauts. This is, in fact, Jack Lausma's mission.
It is.
Okay, so how ironic is that you become great friends, didn't even know how to spell his name maybe when you took this photograph. That's an easy name to spell. But you not only photographed the launch at Cape Kennedy, but this is you out at White Sands, the one and only time a shuttle landed at White Sands.
Yep.
And how were you there?
Well, people were laughing at me, but I got the last laugh on them because not too long after that photograph was taken, a big, huge dust storm blew off of those Wasatch Mountains in the back. And it actually postponed the landing a day because of the sandstorm. So I had goggles on and I had a coat and gloves, and there was people out there in just shorts and regular. Well, they thought, oh, it's the desert, it's going to be hot. Well, in the middle of the day, yeah, but they took us out there in the morning, and it was chilly. And when that sandstorm blew in, I was still pulling sand out of my camera bag for about 4 or 5 years after that was it.
Really?
It was like talcum powder, and it got into all the nooks and crannies of the camera case and the bags, and it was pretty nasty. But it was I wouldn't have traded that experience for the world. Number one, because that was my
Look at that photo.
my
One of a
first
kind.
cover shot for a national magazine, for Air and Space magazine, for the Air Force Association. Knew some of the writers and editors of that magazine, and that cropped that out and made that their cover shot, I guess, for the April '82 edition of their magazine for the Air Force Association. And
Awesome.
that was my first space cover shot.
And there's the collage, the launch and landing taken by you, and over right here by me. See this person standing right there? There's another one over Mark's shoulder there. All right, right there. And you would swear those guys are standing under the wing.
Yeah. No.
But it's a telephoto perspective there.
That was an 800 millimeter lens on a Canon film camera that I only had 36 shots to get. So, I mean, I tracked it coming across those mountains in the background, which are over 60 miles away, I believe. Could see it flying across the sky. It made a big turn, a right bank turn, and came in, and the shot before of it coming in with those mountains in the background right before it dropped the landing gear. And so this was after, of course, it touched down, and then it rolled out. I mean, they had miles and miles of hard lake bed to land on. And that was before they used a drag chute or anything like that. So it just rolled out, and it was great. I mean, there was quite a good crowd there, surprisingly, to see them. And I think the first picture, we looked back there and saw that picture with me and Marie Fullerton. The first picture I took of Marie was after it had landed. They had like a little a flatbed truck set up, and they did like an little impromptu press conference. So I have a shot with the podium, and then they had the astronauts sitting behind the podium in a chair, and it was Jack Lausma and his wife Gracia and Gordon Fullerton with Marie. So I have a photograph. My first photograph of Marie was from 1982.
Yeah, you can't make this stuff up. Like I want to pull out Gordon Fullerton and Jack Lausma. Lausma's the commander. Fullerton's sitting in the right seat. He tripped the landing gear, and this is actually, this is March 30th,
1982.
1882.
1982.
Yeah, 1982, back in the last century, and you become personal friends of Marie Fullerton and Jack Lausman, his family,
Yes.
and had no clue
Nope.
when you took these pictures
Nope.
that you would even get to meet them, maybe personally.
Correct.
In
Correct.
there, and that's what's so neat about maybe living a long good life and doing the same thing, type of you've done a lot of different things with your camera, but you've always been photographing space, and I think that's just so cool to come full circle on Marie Fullerton's birthday today. Happy birthday again to Marie and Jay Honeycutt and Don Thomas birthday yesterday. Dave Leesma and Japanese Lady Mukau yesterday. So can't make that stuff up. It just sort of like makes you want to believe that there's maybe some sort of spiritual thing happening in our lives that keep us in the right place at the right time. So enjoy talking about this. Did you something else you wanted to share with your experience? Though it's bittersweet. You're not going home with the maiden flights there.
Nobody have any questions? We're
Well,
good?
Cliff Watson is down in Pomona, Australia. He's back after
Hey, Cliffy.
almost 3 months here in the States. He says, "Hi, guys." Steve Jokums asks, "Does Mark use a spray and pray shooting method on these action shots?"
Yes. I'm not going to deny it. Especially
the shots
with,
he's thinking about
he's
the
thinking of the
planes.
air show. Yeah.
Yeah.
What
You don't see
I
what you're
use-
photographing because it happens
well,
so fast sometimes.
yes and no. When I'm doing like those plane crossover shots, I have one eye up to the camera, and the other eye is open. So I'm following one of the two planes, whether it's coming. It's usually a left to right pan like this, so I can see that plane coming, and I can see out of this eye that other one's coming into about here. And when that thing goes, I mean, those shots are 1200th of a second, 1500th of a second, and I just lay on it. And the camera shoots about 10 frames per second on a fully charged battery. And they were fully charged for that. Mm-hmm. And I just follow it. I mean, I could see it when I was clicking it because your mirror is flipping up. It's not a mirrorless camera, so it is an SLR. So I'm losing view as the actual picture is taken because the mirror is getting out of the way. So I'm shooting and squeeze off about a 3 or 4 second burst while I'm tracking it. And then after it's passed, and if there isn't a whole lot of other stuff going on, I can look real quick in between demonstration flights. And I can see that I got it or didn't get it. And I know at least one of the planes is going to be sharp and one of the planes is going to be in focus because that was the one I was tracking. And it's a pan, not only pray and spray, but I mean, you're panning with it. That's the only way you can do it. I mean, if I would have had a different, I look at those, and you're always critical of your own shots, and I'll admit it, I am too. But if I had gone there with the option or with the thought in my mind that was the only shot I wanted to get that day, I would have made my camera settings different. My exposure maximum, I believe, on the camera that I was using was, I think it's either 4,000ths or 8,000ths of a second. Now, you can't use that high of a shutter speed with your ISO at 200 or 400. You've got to bump your ISO up to maybe 1600 and then opening your aperture up a little bit and basically using that same method. But I could have gotten a sharper picture of the second plane would be as sharp as the one going this way. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, there's, I've got a couple more air shows coming up this year.
Technical things to go over there.
it.
Great question, though, Steve.
Yep.
And Neil 1030 is got the facts there. That Artemis launch that you captured was at 1:48 a.m. just before 2 in the morning. That was a good one to watch. I think we saw that over at Bill's, didn't we, Marty? At Bill Whiting. Thank you, Bill Whiting. Your brother Tommy was with us up there. And we all had a great time. Bill Whiting, thank you for your hospitality always when we're there. And Robert Law says the STS-3 pictures are amazing, and they
Thank
are. And just it's just so interesting that the time juxtaposition and the people and a great story about the snow geese bonding you with Sonny Williams up there. So she might be
And
looking
she
at those.
remembered me. That was
she
that
might-
was the biggest thing.
Yeah. You know, I do find that very interesting. Marty might even comment that you make an impression on a good impression on an astronaut, and they remember you. And I don't expect all these astronauts that we meet out the astronaut encounter to remember who we are, but they do, don't they, Marty?
Yeah.
And we're kind of their inner circle safety of, like, you know, Mike Baker's become a good friend of our museum, and you know, when they see you at a hotel, it's like, oh, there's someone I know that I can talk shuttle about stuff with, or talk about what's going on
I
here.
can give another shout out, a little story that happened to me yesterday. I was at the visitor center. A friend of mine was involved with the movie, an IMAX movie that's playing out there. So I went to the 10 o'clock show. I come out of the movie theater. I'm heading back to my car, and I'm walking, before you get to the gate, over close to where you guys go for the astronaut encounter.
The Universal Theater.
Yep. Lo and behold, who do I see? None other than Fred Gregory. I guess
That's
he's the guy up there this week. So I go walking over to him, and I had met him numerous times before, and again through photography and Facebook. His wife is a photographer, Annette, and they live up close to, well, not close, but they live up near Virginia, the DC, Virginia area.
Yeah.
And
the Beltway.
yeah, and I had seen them at numerous space events over the years. And a couple of years ago, when COVID was going on, right after that, they had separated some of the events. They kept like the black tie dinner at the Saturn V building, but then they had like an overflow down at the Hilton in one of the ballrooms. So they had contact. He was already there, but they had picked a couple astronauts to stay in that room in the ballroom instead of going to the visitor center for all the people that couldn't make it to the visitor center. And there was two other astronauts. I can't think of them now, but he was one of the astronauts that was there in charge of basically just mingling with the guests and taking pictures and talking to them and stuff. And I was assigned to basically photograph that ballroom area as the overflow. And we sat down and started talking, and I didn't know it, but he was, I think he was originally born, or he was raised up in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, like 25 miles from where I live. So we started talking about stuff and throwing little quips back and forth. Oh, is this still there? And is the traffic like this? And all this kind of stuff. Really super great guy. And his wife was interested in photography. We hooked up on Facebook and started, you know, so I would send her pictures of like different space events for her to show him and just to let her know what I was doing. And I come walking out, and he comes talking. He goes, "Make sure you let Annette know that I'm working down here," because it was starting to get warm during the day. And I said, "All right, I'll send her a message." So I did, and I'll have to check and see if she commented back. But another great guy. I mean, I don't know.
Oh, he is. We love Fred Gregory, don't we, Marty?
Yeah.
He's a first African American commander of a space shuttle, or was Bolden. One of them was. He was also deputy director, or NASA director, interim director for a while.
Okay.
And he don't talk a whole lot about the space experience, does he, Marty? He's very esoteric about the universe, and man needs to explore and understand, and yeah, he'll throw up a slide of the solar system and Hubble telescope, stuff like that. But I think he changes his show. Have you seen him out there this time, Marty?
Yeah, he changed it. He didn't talk much about Hubble and those photographs, but he did talk about the solar system.
Yeah, yeah. He's a great guy, good, unassuming guy on there. So, we did have a little correction there from Dr. Tilko. It was not the personal life support system that was the backpack
Portable.
on the Apollo
Moonwalker.
addition to the A7L spacesuits. There is the portable life support system. And we want to be right. Thank you, Dr. Tilko. Hope you've enjoyed your trip on the Space Coast. He's going to do a show with us. We had a show with Carlton, John Tilko, and you last week, and that was well received. You guys just kind of chatted a little bit about being down here for the rocket launch and so forth. But Dr. Tilko did a dissertation on the simulator program for Gemini and Apollo. Quite intense there. So we will have John Tilko back and on a show when stay curious when he comes back for another launch there. So thank you a lot, my friend.
Thank you, sir.
Hope you had
Good to see
enjoyed
you.
sharing your life a little bit with us.
Always.
We're going to have a great rest of the week with Caroline Shoemaker, the President and CEO of the Astronaut Scholarship Foundation, founded by the Mercury astronauts. They have been the most impactful of all the astronaut organizations out there. Gave scholarship, I think, to Jessica Meir.
Mhm.
No, Christina Cook, I think, is it.
Okay.
But several astronauts have been recipients of their scholarship award, and Caroline's going to tell us all about that tomorrow, and then Future Friday with Via Space Company, our hometown rocket company over in Cocoa, Florida. That's going to be launching some wonderful satellites to space here on their recycled green rocket called Dauntless out there. So I know one thing I wanted to ask about the Atlas V. Atlas V is kind of a short rocket, isn't it? It's only 150 feet tall, I think, where the 212-foot SpaceX Falcon 9
Yeah.
is taller than
Well,
it, I believe.
yeah. Still look pretty big to me.
Right.
Not having them side by side, it'd be hard to say, but it's a good looking rocket. I mean, it's got the solid strap-on boosters on this one too. So was really looking to get some good shots of it.
Well, once again, we haven't heard any news of when if it's going to be Friday or not. Gregory was first on STS-33. Thank you, Neil, for chiming in on that. And Robert Law says he recorded the STS-3 launch on a VHS tape. And didn't we all, off CNN, as John Zarella was giving us the blow-by-blow of it out there. So good stuff there. We're always pleased to have you around the building there. We're also pleased to have Rob Mecklenburg here, John Tilko, Carlton Bailey's outside here. We have created a little clubhouse here at the American Space Museum in Titusville that makes my boss, Karan, Conklin, and I very happy that you space geeks have found us and want to hang out.
Love it.
And know that we might pull you on here once in a while and say, hey, what's going on in the community out there. So thanks for keeping us up to date. We'll be sharing more of your pictures down the road there. I'm sure there'll be a full moon or a ring around the moon or something that you want to share with me there and we'll see you back down here at the end of the month there for the Astronaut Hall of Fame induction ceremony. So we're going to learn all about that tomorrow with Caroline Shoemaker. So anything else to say, Marty? We got anything to button up over there? As we just mesmerized by this gorgeous sunrise shot over Artemis, and we can't wait to see the rocket out there. It's going to be a while, though. It's going to be a year from November, probably, when that happens again. So, Marty, everything okay over there?
Yep, everything's good.
Good. All right. Well, thank you for a great job today, and thank you all for staying curious with us today. Hi, Marquette saying, I can't wait to see you in our building, just like this guy and all the cadre of space fans we've seen this week. Why? Because we want to bridge the space between us. Thank you, everybody, and thank you, Mark. See y'all later.